I want to take you back to a moment before success, before headlines, before money, before power. This is not the story of a company. This is the story of a human being. This is the story of Jack Ma, and it begins at zero. For a long time in my life, I believed I was behind everyone else. I was born into a poor family in Hangzhou, China. My parents were traditional musicians. They had no business background, no connections, no money. At school, I was not the smart kid. I was especially bad at math. I failed exams again and again. I failed the middle school entrance exam twice. I failed the college entrance exam twice. When other students moved forward, I stayed behind. And with every failure, people around me quietly decided who I was. Not talented, not academic, not special. When I finished school, the rejection did not stop. It followed me into the real world. I applied for many jobs. Hotels rejected me. Companies rejected me. Even the police rejected me for being too weak. Then something happened that later became famous. When KFC first came to China, 24 people applied for jobs. 23 were accepted. Only one was rejected. That person was me. Imagine how that feels. Not rejected once, but rejected so consistently that rejection starts to feel like your identity. I had no advantages. I was not rich. I was not good at technology. I was not well educated. I did not come from a powerful family. The only thing I had was a strange habit. I refused to quit. Even when I felt embarrassed, even when I felt small, even when I felt like I was wasting my life, I kept going. Not because I was confident, but because I didn't know how to give up. Then came 1995. I traveled to the United States for the first time. A friend showed me something new, something magical. The internet. It was slow, simple, nothing like today. But it opened a window to the world. I typed one word into a search engine. Beer. Instantly, results appeared from Germany, America, Japan. Curious, I typed another word. China. Nothing. No Chinese companies. No Chinese products. No Chinese presence. It was as if my country did not exist. And in that quiet moment, a question entered my mind. Not a business plan. Not a strategy. Just a question. If the world cannot see China on the internet, why? And if no one is willing to change that, why not me? I did not know how to code. I did not know how to build a website. I did not know how to run a company. But I knew this. The internet was going to change everything, and China could not be invisible. That question changed my life. It planted the seed that would later grow into Alibaba. Not from money, not from power, but from curiosity, frustration, and belief. Looking back now, I understand something very clearly. Great revolutions rarely begin with big plans. They begin with small questions asked by people who refuse to accept the world as it is. When I returned to China after that trip, I didn't come back as a visionary hero. I came back confused, excited, and completely unprepared. I had seen the future, but I had no map. My first attempt was a small internet company called China Pages. The idea was simple: create online pages to introduce Chinese companies to the world. In theory, it sounded reasonable. In reality, it was a disaster. Nobody understood the internet. Companies didn't want to pay. Government offices didn't trust it. Investors laughed at it. China Pages failed, quietly and painfully. But that failure gave me my first real lesson. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the classroom. I learned that ideas alone are not enough. Timing matters. People matter. And belief matters more than confidence. I didn't quit after China Pages failed. I went back to teaching English, but something inside me had already changed. I knew the internet was real. I knew the future was digital. And I knew I would come back to it. In 1999, I invited 17 friends to my small apartment in Hangzhou. The room was tiny. No fancy office. No air conditioning. No whiteboards or business suits. Just people sitting on the floor listening. I told them a simple idea. Let's build a platform where small Chinese businesses can sell their products to the world. No middlemen. No borders. Just opportunity. Most people outside that room thought the idea was crazy. E-commerce barely existed in China. Online payments were unsafe. Logistics were weak. And I, the leader, didn't even know how to write a single line of code. We raised $60,000, not from banks, not from venture capitalists, but from ourselves. Friends putting their savings on the table. Families taking risks. No safety net. Only trust. That was the Real Foundation. We named the company Alibaba. People often ask why. I chose the name because it was easy to spell, easy to remember, and known around the world. Alibaba opens a treasure cave with the words, "Open Sesame." I wanted this company to open doors for ordinary people, not just the powerful. Here's the truth most people misunderstand. I was never the technical brain. I couldn't code. I couldn't design systems. But I could tell a story. I could explain why this mattered. I could make people believe they were part of something bigger than a job. My role was not to build the machine. My role was to build the team that would build the machine. From the beginning, my belief was clear. Small businesses are the real heroes of the economy. Big companies already have money, power, and attention. Small businesses have dreams but no voice. Alibaba was built to be that voice. That's why in the early years, we made the platform free. No fees. No commissions. People said we were stupid. How will you make money? They asked. My answer was simple. First, build trust. First, build users. Money can wait. We worked long hours. We argued. We doubted ourselves. Some days we wondered if we were wasting our lives. But belief kept us together. Not belief in technology, but belief in people. Looking back now, I see it clearly. Alibaba did not begin as a tech company. It began as a human company. Alibaba was not built by technology first, but by belief first. Just when we were starting to breathe, a shadow appeared. A very big shadow. Around 2002, the world's most powerful e-commerce company decided to enter China. That company was eBay. They came with everything we didn't have: money, advanced technology, global experience, and a famous name. They bought the biggest local auction site in China and moved fast. Overnight, everyone started saying the same thing. Alibaba is finished. This is the end. I remember hearing those words again and again. Investors whispered it. Media repeated it. Even some friends worried. On paper, they were right. How could a small Chinese startup fight a global giant? But inside me, something was very calm. I knew one thing they didn't. This was our home. And understanding people is more powerful than understanding code. We didn't try to copy eBay. That would have been suicide. Instead, we decided to build something completely different. We launched a new platform called Taobao, which means searching for treasure. From the beginning, Taobao was designed for Chinese users, not global investors. While eBay charged listing fees and transaction fees, Taobao was 100% free. People said, "You're crazy. Free means no future." I said, "Free means trust." Culturally, we went in the opposite direction. eBay used a clean, global design that worked well in the West. Taobao looked like a lively Chinese market. Bright colors, busy pages, a feeling of life and noise. It felt familiar. It felt human. Most importantly, it felt local. Chinese users didn't want a silent platform. They wanted interaction. So we added something simple but powerful: direct chat between buyers and sellers. Before buying, people could ask questions, negotiate, talk, and feel each other out. That conversation created confidence. But the biggest battle wasn't design or price. It was fear. In early China, people were terrified of online payments. What if I send money and never get the product? That fear was killing e-commerce. So we created something radical: Alipay. The idea was simple. The buyer sends money to Alipay. The seller ships the product. Only when the buyer confirms delivery does the seller get paid. This small idea changed everything. It removed fear. It created trust. It made online shopping feel safe. At the time, there were no clear laws for this kind of system. People warned me. This could be illegal. This could get you in trouble. I answered honestly. If someone must take responsibility to protect customers, let it be me. That decision carried huge risk, but it also built unstoppable momentum. Meanwhile, eBay made a critical mistake. They ran China from overseas. Decisions were made far away, without listening closely to local users. Customer service felt cold. The platform felt distant. They believed their size would guarantee success. But markets don't reward size. They reward understanding. By 2006, the result was clear. Taobao controlled around 80% of China's consumer-to-consumer market. eBay slowly retreated, then effectively disappeared from China. The impossible had happened. A small team with limited resources had defeated a global giant. When people ask me how we won, my answer is always the same. We didn't win with money. We didn't win with technology. We won by listening. We watched how people behaved. We felt their fears. We respected their habits. And we built for them, not for PowerPoint presentations. That battle taught me a lesson I've never forgotten. In business, the biggest advantage is not capital. It's empathy. Understanding your users is stronger than any army of engineers or investors. Alibaba didn't beat eBay with money. It beat eBay with understanding. Winning the war with eBay was not the end of the story. For me, it was only the beginning. Because deep inside, I knew something very clearly. A single website can be copied, attacked, or replaced. But a system is much harder to destroy. I was not trying to build the best shopping site in China. I was trying to build an ecosystem that could support millions of ordinary people for decades. So we stopped thinking like app builders and started thinking like city planners. We asked one simple question again and again. What does a small business really need to survive and grow? The answer was never just a place to sell. They needed a full circle. They needed to sell, to get paid safely, to ship efficiently, to store data, to grow smarter, and to scale without fear. That mindset changed everything. At the center of this system was Taobao, the noisy, colorful marketplace where ordinary people could start selling with nothing but a phone and an idea. But Taobao was only one door. For bigger brands and companies, we built Tmall, a cleaner, more premium space where trusted brands could connect directly with customers. One system, two paths, all connected. Payments were the heartbeat. Without trust, commerce dies. That's why Alipay became more than a payment tool. It became a bridge of confidence between strangers. People who had never met could now trade without fear. Money no longer scared people. It flowed. Then came logistics, the invisible pain of e-commerce. Selling is easy. Delivering is hard. China is huge. Villages are far apart. Roads are complex. So we built Cainiao, not as a single delivery company, but as a smart network that connected thousands of logistics partners. Faster delivery didn't just save time. It saved trust. Behind all of this, quietly growing in the background, was Alibaba Cloud. Most users never saw it, but it powered everything. Data, security, AI analysis. It helped small sellers understand customers the way big corporations once could. Technology stopped being a luxury. It became a tool for the many. Then the world changed again. Smartphones exploded. Many companies hesitated. We didn't. We went all in. We redesigned everything for mobile. Payments became one tap. Stores lived in people's pockets. Farmers, students, grandparents, anyone could do business anywhere. That mobile bet multiplied our reach beyond imagination. In 2014, we took a step that shocked many people. We went public, not in China, but on the New York Stock Exchange. That day, Alibaba raised $25 billion, the largest IPO in history at that time. Reporters talked about money. Headlines talked about valuation. But when I stood there, that wasn't what I talked about. I talked about small sellers. I talked about ordinary people. I talked about trust. Because to me, that moment was not proof that Alibaba was rich. It was proof that China could build something world-class without copying the West. It showed that ideas born from local pain could win globally. It told every young person watching that you don't need to be born powerful to build something powerful. I never wanted to build a company just to sell products. Products come and go. Apps rise and fall. What I wanted was a system that gives people power long after I'm gone. A system that turns effort into opportunity. Jack Ma didn't build a company to sell products. He built a system to empower people. Reaching the top changed everything. And not in the way most people imagine. When you become very big, very influential, and very visible, success stops being just about innovation and growth. It becomes about power, balance, and survival. This was the price we didn't fully understand at first. In October 2020, I stood on a stage in Shanghai and said something I truly believed. I spoke about China's financial system. I said it was old. I said banks were still operating like pawn shops, focused on collateral instead of innovation. I said the future of finance should serve young people and small businesses, not just big institutions. The room went quiet. I didn't realize it then, but those words changed my life. At that time, Ant Group, the financial company built around Alipay, was preparing for what would have been the largest IPO in history. Bigger than Alibaba's. Bigger than anything the world had ever seen. Billions of dollars. Global attention. Confidence at its peak. And then, just days before the launch, everything stopped. The IPO was suspended without warning. The message was clear. Growth was no longer the priority. Control was. After that moment, I disappeared from public view. No speeches. No interviews. No social media. People around the world started asking questions. Where is Jack Ma? Some were curious. Some were afraid. Some invented stories. But the truth was simpler and heavier. In China, when you become too loud, too influential, or too independent, you must learn when to step back. Soon after, the pressure didn't stop. Alibaba became the target of antitrust investigations. Regulators accused us of unfair competition, of forcing sellers to choose only our platform. In 2021, Alibaba was fined $2.8 billion, the largest antitrust fine in Chinese history. It wasn't just punishment. It was a signal. You are big, but you are not above the system. For the company, this was a turning point. We had to change. Not slowly. Immediately. Alibaba began to break itself apart. What once felt like one unstoppable empire became multiple independent units. E-commerce, cloud computing, logistics, digital media, international platforms, each with its own leadership and responsibility. Power was decentralized. Growth was slowed. Compliance became the new strategy. For me personally, it was time to step away. I resigned from leadership roles. I stopped being the face of the company. I chose silence over resistance. Not because I was weak, but because I understood something important. When the environment changes, survival matters more than speed. I turned my focus to education, to rural teachers, to young people who reminded me of myself before success, before money, before pressure. I traveled quietly. I listened more than I spoke. I learned again what it means to be small. Alibaba didn't disappear. It adjusted. It became more careful, more structured, more controlled. The dream didn't die, but it matured. This was no longer the story of endless expansion. It was the story of endurance. In the end, this story was never really about me. It was never about one founder, one speech, one IPO, or one company logo. The real story of Alibaba is about ordinary people who were invisible to the world until technology gave them a voice. Alibaba was built for the farmer who wakes up before sunrise and never thought his apples could be sold beyond his village. It was built for the student with no money, no connections, but a phone and an idea. It was built for the small shop owner who started late, failed before, and was told it was too late to try again. These people were never weak. They were just disconnected. Alibaba became the bridge. That is the real legacy. When people ask what Alibaba taught the world, I think of 7 simple truths. First, start with what you have, not what you lack. I had no money, no code, no power, only belief and persistence. Second, belief matters more than capital. Money follows trust, not the other way around. Third, build for others, not just yourself. When you help small people win, they never leave you. Fourth, dare to challenge giants, but never forget why you started. We didn't fight to destroy eBay. We fought to protect our people. Fifth, adapt or disappear. Desktop to mobile. Local to global. Old systems to new ideas. Sixth, stay humble when you grow. Power without humility doesn't last. And finally, leave a legacy, not just a valuation. A company can disappear. Impact does not. Alibaba became a system where people could buy, pay, ship, and grow without permission. It connected dreams directly to markets. It didn't ask where you studied, how rich your parents were, or how perfect your English sounded. It only asked one question. Can you offer value? The future is still being written. Artificial intelligence is changing how people sell and create. Green technology is reshaping logistics and energy. Digital villages are bringing global markets to remote places. Alibaba is no longer just about e-commerce. It is about inclusion, sustainability, and access. And that is why this story is not finished. It continues every day when someone opens a shop, makes a first sale, or believes again after failure. Alibaba is not a company. It is proof that ordinary people, when given the right tools and a fair chance, can build extraordinary things.